All right, welcome back. So in this final clip, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start compositing all our effects together here. So first off, let's take a look at our pixie dust here. And so with our pixie dust here, the first thing you want to do is to throw down a color correct node here. And I'm going to increase the contrast because I intended these to be quite a bit more twinkly. They're a bit linear. We're compositing this in linear color space. And so the colors are a little bit flat. So we just want to go into the contrast. We want to increase the contrast. And now it's all about just reducing the gain a little bit until we get kind of a sharper effect, and maybe reduce the saturation as well. So also, for this effect, I want to put on a little bit of glow, and this is going to boost the brightness of them as well, but also it's just going to give them a kind of more magical feel. So I'm going to decrease the size here, and it's going to brighten up, as you can see, the particles quite a bit. So let's decrease the size there, and I like to throw down one more glow, and on this glow I like to make it a kind of a wider glow. So we got one smaller one that's just around the particles, and then one brighter one that's kind of like a halo glow around them as well. So now if we take a look at this, you can see they're twinkling quite a bit more, and they're a bit more sharper. So I'm just going to go in and adjust the color correct a little bit more. I didn't quite want them so that blue, so I'm going to decrease the saturation a bit and play around with the gain here. Maybe I'll gain this up a little bit. And we could throw down a sharpen node if we wanted to sharpen them a little bit more. But here's where we can go back into our Maya, and this is where we start adjusting the parameters. Once we have this little render set up here, we can view our particles really quickly and see how they are reacting and twinkling. So I've gone through and I've done one other version of this where I've gone to our particles, and before we had a ramp that was someone like this, and I've gone through, I've rendered out some more particles with almost double the amount, and a ramp now is more like this. So it's going to twinkle about half the amount, but also they're going to get larger and quite a bit smaller. So they're going to vary in size quite a bit more. So let's go ahead and let's apply this setup to our other particles and compare the two. So here we can see our old particles, and now we can see our new particles, and you can see how they're twinkling quite a bit more because in the ramp we've varied the size that much more. So this is kind of all down to what you're trying to achieve, and going back and forth you really kind of fine-tune a lot of different types of pixie dust. So with that said, I'm going to go in and let's add these on top of our layers here. So we have a ground layer and we have our cloth layer. So I'm just going to take our cloth layer and merge this over our ground here. Now I just want to increase maybe the gain of our ground a little bit so we can see what's happening a bit more, maybe a value of 2. And also in our title here, I'm going to color correct this, and I'm going to bring the gain down maybe on our title here. So maybe something like this, and maybe I'll boost the saturation to 2. So that's looking pretty good. So one more thing I want to do is maybe I'll add a glow to our title as well. So let's go in and let's find a glow. And I'm just going to, let's find maybe a frame like this. And I'm going to increase the tolerance so we're not putting glow around everything, but more around bigger areas of the text. and maybe increase the size a little bit. All right. So now let's go ahead and add our particles on top of those as well. And so I'm going to screen these particles over. And now let's just take a play of this. Okay, so here's our buffered effect here, and it looks pretty good. You can see how it starts to swirl as everything starts to come together, and we got kind of a magical feel going on. So one thing I noticed that we forgot to do in one of the layers, you can see on the sphere that we have illuminating as a mesh light in the back here, we're actually seeing that on the ground plane because we forgot to key the visibility off before the actual effect starts. So we've got, before the particles actually start, we've got this bright light going on. So that's an easy fix. What I'm going to do is drop down a color correct here, and I'm going to go in and get a roto. So let's type in roto, go back to a frame here, and I'm just going to click 4 times on our screen and draw a circle around our shape here. And that shouldn't be connected in there. What I want to do is take the right input, which is the mask of our color correct, and drop that into the roto. So now, if we go to the color correct and gain this down, then we can see we're only gaining down this area. And if we press Q on the keyboard, we can unhide the actual shape here. And we're not going to really notice that there's the shape here. Although if we go in, we can kind of feather the edge a little bit. So, okay. So now roto automatically keyframes every time you move it. So I just want to make sure when the thing goes out of the frame, we're going to move it over here. And then by frame 78 or 80, it's out. So we just want to move it out for the rest of the sequence. And as well, before, we just want to find it over here, get rid of that over there, and it's going to track it. So we can pretty much delete it out of the entire sequence. So there we go. So that gives you a lot of techniques that you can use and take it further. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways that we can go with these effects. So now you can get creative and find things and invent things that work for you. So that's it for this module and this course. So thank you for watching. And for more tips and common effects, you can check out some of my other tutorials. But for now, thank you, and I hope to see you again soon.